Welcome to the Grow Your Business and Grow Your Wealth podcast with Gary Heldt. Gary is an expert in helping business owners put together a plan that will provide a better future for their businesses, themselves, and their families. On the podcast, Gary interviews other professionals who share his vision, and together they share secrets and strategies any business owner can use to build a better financial foundation for your business and your life.
Hey, welcome back to the podcast. This week my guest is Tom Healy, and he is the founder of People Ops 360, a people operation consultancy that helps grow businesses, build strong team relationships, reduce turnover, and scale without chaos. With a practical business owner-focused approach to HR, Tom specializes in aligning people strategy with business goals, turning culture, communication, and leadership systems into measurable performance drivers. Welcome, Tom.
Glad to be here. Nice to see you, Gary.
That's a lot there. You talk about people operations, and tell us what your definition of people operations is.
Yeah, I mean, at a very high level, it's the people that are doing the things that are needed inside of the business. And I'm a visual person, so I love looking at this. Think of a timeline, think of a beginning and an end, think of a spectrum. And people inside the business, it all starts with a job description. And then they apply and we interview them and we onboard them and we got to figure out how to compensate them and manage them and train them and give them a path, future in the organization and so on and so forth. And then eventually we probably have to offboard them. And there's all these things that happen inside of there. And that to me is people operations.
Okay. So what is it about this that excites you for you to do this and to excel at it?
Well, people are critical in a business, and you say, "Oh, well, Tom, no kidding. That's really not that interesting. We all knew that." Well, I've traveled around the country for almost 15 years now, speaking to CEOs in groups, working with them one on one, and everyone says, "Oh, our people are so important, and this is a workplace family, and nothing happens without the people in the business." Yet, once get them to let their hair down a little bit and start talking about things, we find that there's all these people problems inside the organization. And I don't think necessarily people go to, "Oh, this is an HR problem, this is a people ops problem." But you have CEOs that say, "Our culture is eroding. People are not being held accountable. People aren't performing at the level that we want them to. We didn't hit our sales goals for this year. We're losing market share here in our local market." And they say all these business problems, and typically it comes back to people. And then, but think about what happens is, okay, so I've identified all these problems or issues I'm having in my business or barriers to growth. Um, I've identified that, hey, they're kind of like related to people. Our people aren't motivated. They're not trained enough. They're not strong enough with our customers. They're not pounding the pavement and selling our widgets, whatever it might be. But then, Gary, how do they look at HR? Yeah, someone just runs HR. That's not my area. I'm a marketer. I'm a sales guy. I've been in the construction industry for 100 years. So we have these issues. We figure out that they're related to people, and then we look at HR as a pain in the butt that we shove off into the corner. And then it depends on the size of the company. So in a smaller company, who's doing HR? Nobody's doing HR,
Right.
or the owner's spouse is doing HR, or the office administrator's doing HR, or the CFO's doing HR. And it's just not getting done properly. And I know it's not the most exciting thing to talk about, but if I'm trying to build a high performing company, I probably need high performing people to execute really, really well on the strategy that I've established for the company. And my passion is around the fact that this is not happening often enough. And I want to be a part of solving it.
Right. How do you when you go in to do this and you're trying to help the company grow, how do you go about because again, depending on the size of the company, this could be a very daunting task being able to try to talk to everybody and kind of get, hey, what's wrong with the company? What aren't you getting and so forth. How are you handling that and doing that? And then the second part to that is, okay, if I'm a three-person business and I can't, I think that I can't afford someone like you to come in, how do you help get past that?
Great question. And yes, so much of this depends on industry and org chart, size of company. I'll give you a pretty, I think, interesting answer regardless of the size of the company, which is I believe everything starts with the org chart.
Hmm.
And a lot of companies don't have one, or they say they have one, but they don't. And so, well, why would we start with the org chart? Because that could lead to a year's worth of work. And so you're exactly right. You don't just come in and solve all these problems in 30 days. You try to figure out what are the biggest issues, the biggest pain points. And so I like to figure out what is our biggest problem. Is it that our compensation packages are way out of whack? Is it that our interview process is absolutely horrible? Is it that we have no culture? So figuring out like what are the major rocks that we have to tackle first. But the org chart's so interesting because there's so much there. How do we have the organization structured? Does everyone have a specific role? Are these roles built on what serves the organization best, or are they built on personalities? Oh, Gary's a nice guy. Let's put him in charge of customer service and sales. And you know what? Our HR person quit, so we'll throw HR on his plate too. And then, it becomes chaotic. Oh, and then Gary leaves for a better job. And now we're hiring someone to do what? Oh, we just need you to be the new Gary. Well, but is that marketing? Is it sales? It is HR. So trying to figure out, who reports to who does what are everyone's key responsibilities. So, what are the major objectives that everyone has to hit? Are they being held accountable to them? Is someone managing them on a regular basis? And these are such elementary concepts, but I can't tell you how often. I mean, majority of the time, our org chart's kind of thrown together. We people don't really have role clarity. They're not really held accountable. They don't have one-to-ones with their supervisors. Um, People are kind of doing different things based on their personality. People are very territorial of certain things because they just don't want to let go of that because they're afraid they'll lose their job if AI puts them out of work or whatever. So it's just absolute chaos. That's always a really good place to start.
Yeah. How, again, going back to that, call it, 2 to 5 person company. Lots of times that, you talk about the org chart. I mean, lots of times it's a flat line.
Yeah.
It's not there is no, I'm going to say, order to it or anything else. Everybody reports to the business owner. Well, if
Sure.
everybody's
So,
reporting to the business owner, how the hell is the business owner getting any work done?
well, yes, exactly. And that's what happens is when everyone just goes into the owner's office and there's 5 people, 7 people, 10 people, it creates a massive bottleneck. Bob's out fishing this week, so nothing's getting done around here. Or Bob has all the answers, so I need to, or Bob micromanages, so I have to ask permission to do anything. I mean, one of my favorite examples was, and this was a company with 75 employees, and they were complaining about their not being able to secure the people that they wanted during interviews. We interview someone, we like them, but we can't get them to work for us. It took me a while to break it down, but the end result of this was people, the CEO had to personally approve every hire. And he
Wow.
traveled a lot. In fact, all over the world, developing relationships and being the CEO. And so a candidate, they'd want to hire a candidate, but they couldn't because it needed approval. And I said, has the CEO ever said no? And they're like, no. And I said, well, what's his reason? They're like, well, sometimes people want to have like a moving budget because they're moving to a new city for the job, or they want us to help with their student loans, or these little things that sometimes people ask for when they switch jobs. And I said, in your history of being here, has the CEO ever said no? And they're like, no, he always says yes. I said, so then he's just a bottleneck that's literally adding, in some cases, 4 weeks on. So, when if there are five people, starting with, okay, who does what around here? And let's all take ownership over things. We can't all do sales. We can't all do marketing. Sure, we can all chip in and help in different areas, but who's in charge of onboarding? Who's in charge of marketing? Who's in charge of sales? Who's in charge of customer service? And at least having someone own that, and then having, that very clear. Because what happens is we don't have that.
Right.
And then it becomes chaotic. And then I point a finger at you and say, you dropped the ball. And you're like, what in the heck are you talking about? You're the one that dropped the ball. And then the owner has to come in and sit us down. And now we've spent, hours and hours of our time. And see, that's what happens. So, I work a lot with the CEO. And so I hear all the horror stories and challenges. And, I see the dark circles under the eyes. And I'll say, "Hey Matt, what in the heck's going on? You look like heck. You look
Yeah.
terrible." Well, my executive assistant and my VP of sales don't get along, and I've been trying to figure this out. And then you get into it, and you're like, "Well, people don't understand what they're supposed to do, and they're not communicating, and then it breaks down, and then humans are humans, and so they fight." And so much of this, because of this chaos, the owner of the company spends a ridiculous amount of time firefighting. and and
Right.
and who wants to do that?
Right, right. And I mean, and that's something that I find a lot with the business is that's what it is. I mean, it is, lots of times people ask, oh, well, what do you do? I'm I'm a firefighter.
Yeah.
I'm the one the master of chaos, type thing. I think that I think the other thing that happens lots of times, especially with the smaller businesses as they scale, is somebody may have started out originally as the receptionist, and then now next thing you know, they've moved to the role of the marketing person or whatever it is, and somebody's put them in that position because they needed to fill that position, but they've never been formally trained. How do you go about helping with that? Because it seems like lots of times, as business owners, we think we have to do everything, and we
Yeah.
don't.
Well, there has to be a playbook on how your business runs.
Mhm.
And okay, we have a VP of sales role that's open, head of sales. Well, how do I do that job? What are my responsibilities? What do I need to know? What information do I need to learn? Are there books I need to read? Is there mentorship that I need from someone else in the organization? But when that doesn't happen, now we've elevated someone to that role, and we've said, here you go. And I don't mean this to be insulting, but not most people are not entrepreneurial. Most
Right.
people are not so incredibly driven that they say, okay, I've never been a VP of sales before, but I'm going to invent this role, and I'm going to build my own training, and I'm going to read my own books, and I'm going to utilize ChatGPT, and I'm going to spend my nights and weekends watching YouTube videos on how to run a sales department inside a commercial construction company. They're not going to do that. What they're going to do is just kind of make stuff up, be a poor performer. And then you know how the story goes. They either stay there forever and steal a paycheck because
Yep.
the owner's too afraid to fire them or wants to avoid confrontation, which often happens, or we have to get rid of them. Then we put someone new in that role. And that new person, same thing. They don't have any foundational training. And we have to give people a playbook. The other reason that having that playbook on how to run a business, how to do each role inside your company becomes so valuable is if you ever want to sell it. And I'm sure you've heard the statistic before, close to 80% of businesses that get transferred to the next generation fail.
Yeah,
Why? Because it's all in Bob Senior's head.
100%.
There is no playbook to run the business. And there's obviously other reasons for that too. So if you ever want to transfer your business or you ever want to sell your business, if the answer to where is all of your training, where are the manuals on how to do each role inside the organization, where's the list of vendors, where's your onboarding and offboarding, where's your org chart? If the answer is it's in my head or it's on the dry erase board over there in the corner, your valuation just went down
Hmm.
and less people are interested in buying your business and goodbye to a bidding war. I mean, I see so many baby boomer business owners that work their tail off to build a pretty decent business, but they are not getting the valuations they want because none of this is in place. And
Right.
it I mean, the reality is that the owner that's selling their business, you know, they're of no value when the business is sold, right? I mean, we know that they might stick around, they might not stick around. They're probably going to say they're going to stick around, but they're not going to want to work for someone else. So that all that knowledge, all that institutional knowledge, all walks out the door.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, and I think I always say that you own a job, not a business when it's like that. I think that
And,
the
and,
other
and, and
thing,
Gary, along the way, the other thing too is along the way when you do that whole own a job versus owning a business thing, you spend, I mean, who knows what the number is, right? Tens or hundreds of hours a year firefighting.
yeah,
And is that really what you want to do? I mean, I know for some business owners, it's kind of a point of pride, right? There's something about coming home at 6 o'clock at night, being beat up and tired and exhausted and saying, all right, I provided for my family and I'm proud of myself. And I know there's some pride in doing that, but does it really have to be that hard? And at some point, putting some order to the business, again, I call it people operations, but okay, who does what? What are they responsible for? Where do they go if there's an issue? Who's managing them? Like, start being a CEO as opposed to, being involved in every little aspect of the business.
yeah. I mean, honestly, Tom, I would much rather go home at 3 o'clock and say I provided for my family and
Yep.
all these people that work with me and their families and be able to take off when when you
Oh, and we
choose
can take a
to.
vacation every once in a while
Yep,
too.
exactly, exactly. To be able to afford it and be able to then also take that time off and not feel like, okay, now that I'm back, I'm going to be, staying to the office at 10 o'clock every night to just try to catch up. That's definitely something that many business owners end up dealing with. A lot of the talk you're talking about, documentation and different stuff like that. Um, Talk about how that really affects when there's turnover. I mean, because I know every time I bring somebody new on, there's a lot of time being spent on doing training and stuff like that. And we have our processes documented that we're able to kind of hand that off, but it's much more expensive to have to go out and hire somebody and find somebody and all that than making sure your people that you have in house get trained properly.
There's so many pieces to that. So one of the interesting things is when companies don't have those processes documented and don't have that training in place, they know it, and the person that they want to the person that they want to get rid of also knows that, which means
Yeah.
they have leverage. So I'm the only one that has this information. I'm the only one that knows how to do this around here. You can't get rid of me. And so they do whatever they want. Maybe they come in late. Maybe they leave early. Maybe they're kind of a C player, but they know they have the leverage in the situation. So often companies cannot get rid of someone because they know they have no way to transfer that knowledge to the next person, which is scary, but it happens all the time. So then let's say we are able to get rid of that person. We bring someone new in and say, here you go, good luck.
Right.
Well, what message does that send to the person? That person says, okay, I was told that this was a well oiled machine. I quit the job that I was actually kind of happy at to come work here. Maybe I had to move my family. Maybe I had to shuffle my schedule. Maybe I took a pay cut because I thought that the upside would be greater, but I chose to work here and I've taken that risk. I've showed up, and on day one, you've essentially told me that I'm on my own to figure out how to do things, or I need to shadow people. I mean, you've seen the statistics that there are people on their first day that go, I do not have a future here. I can't quit right
Yeah.
now. So I'll nod my head and play nice, but I'm going to start looking for jobs again next week. This is not what I signed up for.
So, flipping this, I know you say that you usually work with the CEOs and stuff like that, but flip this. What advice would you give to somebody that has found themselves in that situation?
The owner of the company in that
No, no, no,
situation,
no, no. That employee that took a job and then all of a sudden it's like, well, wait a minute, this isn't what I thought it was going to be. What advice would you have for that person?
my if it were my friend or my younger brother or sister, someone I was mentoring, if they found themselves in that situation, I would really encourage them to be entrepreneurial and say, this is actually an opportunity. So
Hmm.
do not sit there and wait for something to happen, but go ahead and force the issue. Go ahead and make things up. You build the processes, you build the procedures, you build your own training, you find resources outside of the building. Go on ChatGPT, go on Grok, use whatever AI service you want, and explain the organization, the industry, the role, your responsibilities, and ask them to build out the training for you. I mean, so there's ways to do that, but I would just be very proactive with that. And I guess could it backfire? Maybe, but I'd like to think the right CEO, the right leadership in the company would go, that's pretty incredible that our new hire took it upon herself to essentially build out her job because it didn't exist. And, that's not different than some of the work I've done over the years as a consultant. Hey, Tom, we have this problem. Come solve it. Well, I'm starting from scratch. I mean, there is nothing there. And so, it's a little bit different, but being that self-starter, being entrepreneurial, I think it can create opportunities for you.
Yeah, because even if you're not going to stay there, going to that next employer saying, hey, I came to this, my current position, nothing was built out. I went in and I did X, Y, and Z, to build that so that next person that comes in with that. Because to me, if I'm looking to hire somebody and they tell me that they built all this stuff out on their own when they found that there was a problem, because again, as the owner, I want people that are going to be the problem solvers, not the people that just say, "Oh, there's a problem." It's like,
Yep.
yes, we need to identify the problem, but we also need people to be able to, you know, figure out how to solve that problem for us also.
Yeah, I mean, do you want your reputation to be someone that runs away from work or runs towards work? Just
Right.
run towards the problem. And, you know, AI and technology certainly can disrupt things. However, I think there are always going to be opportunities for people that take ownership, take responsibility, run towards things, want to be a leader,
Yeah.
align with the culture of the organization. So those are just things that are hard to find. And you and I know as a CEO, when you have someone like that, you're probably not going to get rid of them. And
Yeah.
maybe their role will change over time, their department might change, but those are the types of people where, hey, if everyone was like her, this would be a pretty good culture around here.
Yeah. I think, you're talking about AI, and so many are people are afraid of AI, and that's all that's going to take my job and so forth. But this is a prime example where if you use AI in the right way, you're going to better yourself, make yourself more valuable, and then you're not worrying about it.
There's a great story out there. A guy gets hired to a company, and within a few weeks, he created automations through AI where his job was being done by AI. And he took it to his supervisor and said, "I figured out a way for AI to do my job." Well, guess what? He got promoted.
Yeah.
Great. Now we need you to do that for the entire organization. You're now our VP of such and such. Do this everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
I,
the opportunities are going to change. I mean, you know this. Technology changes things. It shifts around jobs and it reshapes organizations. But you know, you're either going to lean into it or be terrified by it. I mean, the last thing, if I had a job at an organization and I felt that there were opportunities to create leverage through AI, why wouldn't I do those? I mean, do you really think that someone's going to come to you and go, "Oh, AI is doing everything. Get out of here in 2 weeks"? No, they're going to add things to you. They're going to say, "Okay, can you also do this? Can we do this? Can we add this?" Well, now you've made yourself way more valuable inside the organization. And,
yeah.
and frankly, you're able to justify your salary and probably raise your salary. Hey, I came in for, I'm just making up numbers here. I came in to do this at $60,000. Well, now I'm doing this, this, and this. Would you be willing to bump me up to $80,000? Well, of course we would. You're now doing two people's jobs.
Right. Yeah. What do you talk with the CEOs? Because, many times, again, people are very good tacticians. They've never had to lead people before, but now they're the owners of the company and stuff like that. So they don't necessarily feel comfortable, conflict resolution or anything else, or even talking to their employees of, hey, what's the roadblock that's stopping you from doing your job? Is there another tool that I can give you to help you do your job better? How do you counsel those CEOs to do this? Because I think this is something that's really missing with a lot of the smaller businesses.
Yeah, Gary, I think that too often, especially newer CEOs, they make the job of leader into something that's far harder and more complicated than it needs to be. And so, okay, I've got 5 people, I've got 50 people. I need to pump them up. I need to motivate them. I need to change their behavior. I need to get them excited. You realize those things are pretty much impossible to do.
Right.
And if you do them, it's going to last for about 48 hours and then they're just going to go back to what they were doing. Okay. So if I'm counseling a newer CEO, all that I would tell them is think of your favorite coach growing up. Maybe you played soccer, maybe you did gymnastics, maybe you were in the band. You had someone coaching you. And what did you love about that person? Just go be that person. Oh, they were a servant leader. They always asked me if I needed help. They never screamed and yelled at me. They asked me what was important to me. They were always there for me when I needed it. They listened to my problems and issues. They helped me reach my goals. Oh, because that's all it is. It's just being a great coach. And I give that same advice to managers too. Oh, I got a team of 8 people. I need to really motivate them to have a great Q1. No, you need to figure out what matters to them and help them achieve that.
Right.
Just be a great coach. So we make this whole CEO leadership thing into something that I mean, what you basically do is you build it up in your mind into something that is impossible to achieve.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
It's
Tom,
the
we've
old
cut.
quote. You ever heard your, yeah, and I'm going to butcher this, but the old quote of if you help everyone else accomplish what they want to, you'll get what you want.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
I
if
mean,
the
but I
CEO
mean,
just
it's
says,
true.
look,
Yeah,
yeah, I'm going to help these five people get everything they want. And guess what? My company will have a great year because of it.
yeah. And I mean, and that's definitely true. And it's like, you know, all of us that have businesses, you know, majority of the people that we hire want to be successful themselves. They want the business to be successful. And so if we do make sure that they're successful, they're happy, we're providing them the tools that they need to do their job and so forth. Even when things are bad, they're still going to be there for us because they know that we're trying to help them be successful. And I think that many business owners don't have that dialogue, you know, with their staff. And because of that, I think there's it lots of times there's the me versus the world when it comes to the business owners. And it's like changing that mindset is important.
Absolutely.
Tom, I could keep talking about this because I think that this is something that business owners need to hear. They need to have somebody come in and be honest with them about, you know, how things sit. What questions have I not asked you that you wish I had?
I'll give you one. I'll ask the question, then I'll answer it for myself. But
Okay.
really around where the HR function breaks down, and I'll give you I'll try to give you a succinct answer, but I really believe that so often a company has a great strategy. This is what we want to do. This is how we want to be seen in the marketplace. This is how we want to grow. Great. I mean, usually strategies are pretty good.
Right.
The problem is, oh, I need people to execute that. And when your people operations aren't in alignment to that strategy, it doesn't happen. And so that's where, our team's pretty dangerous is tell me the strategy of the organization and then let's build a people strategy, your people operations around what you're trying to do. Because those things are very different. Are you trying to be the low cost provider or are you trying to be the Nordstrom of your marketplace? Do you want to hire? Do you want to hire people out of high school or do you want to hire people that come with a book of business? I mean, we could go through a million examples, but I need to understand the strategy of the business so that we can build a people operation strategy around that. And when those things aren't in alignment, chaos ensues.
Right. Right. So, Tom, if people like what they hear, how can they reach out to you? Where can they find you to be able to talk with you?
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn, Tom Healy, Healy. I post content. I'm active on there. If something catches your eye and you want to chat about it, you can certainly send me a message. And then, if you're listening to this going, gosh, we have some challenges and I'd love a sounding board. I am always happy to talk about this stuff and, whether we work together or not, just to provide a little value and give you my perspective. Feel free to reach out. We'll set a conversation up. Tom at peopleops360.com. Tom at peopleops360.com. Be more than happy to chat.
Great. Tom, really appreciate your time today and definitely have given everybody a lot to think about.
Appreciate you having me. Thank you.
Great. Hey, this week our guest was Tom Healy, who is the founder of People Ops 360, and I'll see you guys next week.